I just used Old Blue here to haul a load of lumber from the depot store, and I gotta remember to load my spare tire. I will be in for it. Oop, more cats. Now there's 4. Yesterday there was 3. Amazing. Well, I've got to take care of one of them. It looks like he's got some cactus in his face. I'll pull that out in a minute. Okay, I hauled, used a few of these, looks like. I hauled some 2x6 12-footers and some 2x8 12-footers. I also hauled some 2x4 8-footers. And what I've accomplished so far is I've got all the anchor bolts in. And I'm putting the ledger board on now. I'm also putting down a vapor barrier underneath it, which sort of seals off the tops of the blocks and bugs and things like that. So I'll show you how I do that in a minute. I'm not actually going to put one up, but I'm going to show you how I line the bolt holes up. It's really kind of cool. So bear with me a minute, and I move the scaffolding over to a different spot and be right back. Okay, as you can see, I've already got a few ledger boards up. The 12-footers are really quite heavy. This wood is green and it's having to dry out a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. Once I get it bolted down, I'll see how bad it's going to warp, if at all, and replace it if I think it needs it. So let me get set up a bit here, and I'll show you how I do a block. Well, I hope this works. I hope you can see this. And I didn't mean do a block, I meant block of wood. I'm not going to put up a board right now, but I'm going to show you the process that I use. First of all, what I do is I generally put this down just before I lay the plate on top. This is a vapor barrier, and it's not quite as wide as the block, and I just run it the length, push it over the bolt holes and over the bolts. It's too early for me this morning. Anyway, that holds it in place. I generally put this on last before I put the board on. Now what I do is I take and I lay the board up. Mind you, this is 12 feet long. This one is going to be 12 feet long as well. And I go and I clamp the board to the bolt, and that keeps it from falling in on me, or if I put it on the outside, from falling over on the outside. Then what I do, mind you, this board is another 4 inches out this way. I measure from here, from the edge of the wall to the edge of the outside of the board, which would be right about here. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can see that. I do that on the inside if I want the board to fit closer to the inside edge of the block. Now the board width is just a little bit narrower than this block, so it's going to fit a little bit on the inside anyway, or in between the edges. But by doing the measurement from the inside, I do the measurement from the inside. I go down from one end, make sure it's out just as far. Say it's like 4 1/4 inches here. I'll go over here on the front side edge of the board and see if it's 4 1/4. I'll go all the way down to the other end, see if it's 4 1/4, and I find a happy medium to where I might have to loosen this up. I might have to move the board out a little bit, but I find where it's closest at all the ends, so that way I've got my board fairly straight, even though they are bowed a little bit. So you got to just get close on this. Now, if I want the board to be positioned closer to the outside of the wall, the edge of the board to the outside of the wall, what I'll do is I'll run my measurement from this edge and take a reading, and then of course I'll go at this end up here, and then I'll go down to the far end, take a reading, and I'll find the happy medium in between there. Might be 4 1/4 here, might be 4 there, might be 4 1/4 down there. So what I would end up doing is I would jockey the board whichever way I could get them to be as close to the exact readings all the way down. And it's not a perfect science, I'll tell you. Then, this is a really neat part. This is a part I really like. I found myself a piece of metal strapping, and I hope you can see that. Half of this is notched here, like you cut it in half. This fits over the bolt about halfway into the center of the bolt, which is great. Then I take my marking pen, and I've made myself an area right here, not here, but up here, and I set it on the bolt. This clamp is in the way, of course, right now, and I get it just as square to the board as with this edge as I can, and then I put my mark on the board, and I go down each one. I put it, say this is a bolt, I put it on the bolt, I mark the board. All the way wherever there's a bolt, I mark the board with the little hole, with the little dot. Then I take the board off and I drill a 3/4 inch hole. It's a little larger than this 1/2 inch bolt, but what it does is it gives me a little leeway this way and that way in case I don't quite line up, because these bolts are not quite exactly straight up and down a little bit, and they're not all in a line. Some are here, some are here. They're not off that much, but they're off maybe just a little bit. This takes into consideration that by putting it up on the bolt, marking it on the board, it takes each bolt into consideration where it lies on the board. Then I drill my holes and I put the board down over it, and it just falls right into place every time. I think I've had one, when I was first doing this trial and error to get it to work, I think I had one I had to fight one end. I fought a little bit, but once I figured out where I was going wrong, this just works really nice. Now they do make tools for, I believe, 2x4 and 2x6s if you're doing bottom plates on a wall, that you can look up and get a tool that will do just exactly what this thing does. But for my purposes, with these 2x8s up on top here, it looks to me like this is just, this has just worked out wonderful. So I know it's probably confusing. Should be showing you on a board. So I'll get a board that I've already put up and show you again. Be back in a sec. Okay, we'll say this is the wood and this is your bolt. This is going to be very, very difficult to do holding the camera. Everything is not like this. So what I do is I put the plate up to the bolt, and I go back here, and where I've got my little marks, I would put a little dot. That's where I drill my hole in my board. Then when I take my board and I go to set it on top of the block, it just falls perfectly where I mark that hole. You want to make sure that you get this, whatever you're using, make sure you get it as square as you can with your board. You don't want it like this or like that. So I'm trying to hold the anchor bolt up with the pair of grips. Anyway, so the bolt's in the block, you slide it up to the bolt, make a mark right there. My first mark I found was off, so what I would do, I'd be making a mark right here, right in there. just go like this. I drill that 3/4. That gives me a little room to work, and I'm good to go. So I hope that helps if you're setting any kind of plates with the bolts. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it, but for me, working up on a scaffold with 2 by 8 by 12 footers, this seems to be working fairly well. And that's about it for now on the house update. I'm not sure what it is. I'll post it somewhere. And I'll keep you up to date what's going on. I have ordered trusses. At one point I thought I was going to have to build the roof because I didn't get, the truss people didn't get back to me. And about the time I ordered a lot of this wood, I was getting ready to do the ceiling joists with these 2 by 6s. I ended up getting a call from the truss people, and for the price they want for trusses for the whole thing, I just couldn't resist it. And besides, I will be able to use these 2 by 6s as fascia board, and as it is, I have a few left over. So this is Steve AZ711 saying thanks for watching. Hope this helped a little bit in some respects, and bye for now.